and
Oddworld.
Hey oddballs, I'm your host Jensen, and welcome to episode 169. Alright, get your mind out of the gutter, and we're gonna say happy birthday to you September 24th babies. I have the book of birthdays in front of me, and we're gonna get to know who you are, so here we go.
Happy birthday.
For those born on September 24th, the balance that symbolizes their astrological sign of the Libra often appears weighted in favor of Venus. For not only are these people sensual and pleasure-loving, they also have a deep desire to love and be loved. Yet, the presence of Mercury at the other end of their personality scale endows them with keenly curious intellectual qualities, adding a progressive and inquiring streak to their natures. While the dispositions of those born on this day vary from one individual to another, these two astrological influences generally combine to create people who are not only considerate, sensitive, and empathetic, but are also oriented toward helping others through their resourceful and imaginative efforts. Some may be inclined to devote their careers to social, humanitarian, or political issues, while other September 24th people may harness their affinity for all things artistic to their quest for enlightening or entertaining others, a propensity that is doubly pronounced if they were also born in the Chinese year of the goat. The liaisons formed by those born on this day, be they professional or personal, are typically defined by these individuals' intuitive ability to detect unhappiness in others and their urge to relieve such feelings of distress through positive and supportive gestures. Despite their sociability and concern for others' well-being, they do, however, have an inherent need both for periods of solitude, in which they can indulge in the pursuits that particularly interest them, and for intellectual and sensory stimulation. Unless these needs are fully respected by those closest to them, they may sometimes result in discord with their most intimate relationships. Their virtues are empathetic, versatile, loving. Their vices are self-absorbed, non-committal, detached. So happy birthday again, you September 24th babies. If this sounds like you or somebody that you know, as always let me know, and let's go ahead and move on to stories.
This comes from sad_assistance_6093 on Reddit.
I used to rent a flat in Leeds, one of those tall Victorian terraces that had been hacked into student housing decades ago. From the outside, it looked almost grand. Tall windows, soot-stained brick, an iron railing out front. But inside, it was the usual patchwork. Paper-thin walls, carpets that smelled faintly of damp, and floorboards that shrieked if you so much as shifted your weight. It wasn't perfect, but it was cheap. And when you're a student, cheap is king. At first, it was just an old house. Drafty, yes. Moody plumbing, sure. But nothing I couldn't live with. Until winter set in. That's when I started waking up. Always around 3 a.m. I'd sit bolt right up, heart pounding, certain I'd heard something. It was always the same sound. The floorboards in the hallway creaking. Now, in a house that old, creaks aren't unusual. But this wasn't just the random groan of timber. This was rhythmic, steady, like footsteps, slow and deliberate, creeping closer. I asked my housemates, half expecting them to laugh and confess they were sneaking around. But they swore they were asleep, and every morning, without fail, the locks were bolted from the inside. No one had gone out, no one had come in. Weeks passed, and the pattern didn't break. I'd wake up at 3, hear the creak, then silence. Some nights it stopped halfway down the hall. Others, it came right up to my bedroom door. I started leaving the lamp on at night, but it didn't help. The light only made the shadows under the door sharper, and that's where I began to notice them. The shadows of feet. At first I thought my mind was playing tricks, but no. They were there, still, waiting. The weight of something pressed close to the other side of the door. I never opened it. One night, I decided to be brave, or stupid. I sat up in bed, covers pulled tight, and I waited. Sure enough, at 3 o'clock, the boards began to complain. Creak, pause, creak, closer and closer until they stopped right outside. I fixed my eyes on the thin gap beneath the door, that faint strip of light where the shadows betray what stands beyond. The feet were there, just as I'd seen before. 2 solid shapes, motionless. But then something happened that froze the blood in my veins. The shadows changed. Instead of walking away, they lowered. Slowly, deliberately, they dropped down until the dark shape stretched flat against the floor. Whoever, whatever, was outside my door wasn't standing anymore. It was lying there, listening. I didn't sleep that night. I don't even think I blinked. I just sat there, locked in a staring contest with the space under the door, waiting for the shadow to move again. Eventually, the first pale light of dawn crept in, and the hallway was empty. After that, I stopped pretending. I slept in the library some nights. I started carrying my keys everywhere, even inside the flat. And still, the footsteps came. Sometimes faint, sometimes heavy. Always around 3. Always stopping at my door. When my lease finally ended, I almost didn't bother mentioning it to the landlord. But at the last minute I did. Half a joke, half a confession. He didn't laugh. He went pale. Which room were you in? He asked. When I told him, his face tightened. He explained that before the partitions, the whole house had been one unit. Back in the 1950s, a man had lived there and had been found dead in the hallway, stretched out flat, face down, right outside what later became my bedroom door. They never figured out why he was lying there, or what he had been doing in those final moments. I moved on. Different city, different life. But even now, years later, if I wake up in the small hours, I hold my breath and listen. Because sometimes, in the silence, I swear I hear it again. The slow creak of footsteps, a pause outside the door, and then that dreadful shifting sound as something lowers itself to the floor. Well, now if that doesn't sound like a residual haunting, then I don't know what is. I mean, it's still spooky nonetheless, but like that last part when the person like laid down, well, not person, but the shadow, when the shadow laid down outside their door and just didn't move. I wonder if that's like that. I wonder if that's the day that the person who previously lived there died. Or maybe since you didn't have the light on before and you started focusing on it every single night, maybe that was like the first time you had seen the shadow figure lay down and this poor man on the other side was just literally living every day dying. And maybe it's not actually his soul per se, it's just his residual energy. Unfortunately, moving in the same freaking steps that he took before he died, I'm assuming, every single night until that fateful moment. So I'm wondering if maybe this person had like a heart attack or something, or a brain aneurysm, or I don't know, but something. Something happened to this person. Maybe they were poisoned. I don't know. Nobody obviously knows. But obviously they took some steps in that freaking hall and then they fell to the floor and died. So I really like this one because I feel like you could definitely get paranormal activity every single night. And I want to go investigate this place now because can you imagine setting up a camera in that hallway and capturing this, whatever this is, on camera? I mean, you're bound to catch it, right? Because it happened almost every single night or every single night to this person. So it must still be happening unless the landlord decided to cleanse the house of somehow. It's spooky, but it's also like, I'm fairly certain this is just a residual haunting. And it's pretty freaking cool if you ask me. It's pretty freaking cool. But I'm curious as to what your guys' thoughts are. And let's go ahead and move on to the next story.
This comes from Gothic AA13 on Reddit.
My mother, 6 at the time, and her sister, 7 at the time, were home alone. It was the 70s. It was late in the evening as both parents were working. The door to the room they were in started rattling. They opened the door after a long time and saw a headless horseman. The horse had reared up when they opened the door, and a voice came from the rider saying, "You will never escape from me. I will always find you." Of course, the girls screamed and slammed the door shut. This happened when they were living in Wales. Many years later, in Scotland, my mother, when she was pregnant with me at this time, saw the headless horseman again, repeating the same message. My auntie was not there this time. My mother has had a lot of bad luck and negative energy in her life, and I'm wondering if this may have something to do with it. To note, my mother has never done drugs. She harbors drugs and anyone who does them. She has kicked people out of my home because they were smoking a joint. I have no words for this one. I have never read a story of someone actually seeing the headless horseman, and I'm kind of mind blown a little bit. Now, I had to look some things up because, like I said, I don't really know anything about the headless horseman. All I can picture is like your typical dude on a horse without a head with the cape and then the little pumpkin under the arm. But see, you have like the Legend of Sleepy Hollow, which is back from 1820. And that one doesn't specifically say that it like curses anyone. But then I'm not saying your mom is crazy, okay? Please do not think that. Because in 1972, you mentioned the 70s. In 1972, The Curse of the Headless Horseman came out. Now, I'm wondering if, by chance, your mother and her sister conjured this up in their brain. Like maybe they watched the movie, maybe they don't remember watching the movie, and they conjured it up in some kind of spirit that wasn't actually the Headless Horseman, but like something else, like transformed into the Headless Horseman and banged on the door, and your sister and mom saw, or your mom and her sister saw that. Now that is really far-fetched. And I am completely obviously making shit up. But this is the path that my brain is on right now. Because holy crap, freaking Headless Horseman. And I know that the Headless Horseman comes from like European folklore. So maybe it really does exist and other people have seen it. They just haven't said anything. Or maybe I'm just not finding the stories, because now I need to know how many people have seen the freaking Headless Horseman. Unless I have read a story like this and I'm completely blanking it. But you know what this feels like to me? This feels like Bigfoot. And I literally don't mean that in the meanest way at all. I'm just saying it's like your mom got to see a freaking legend here. And that's cool. And obviously also freaking terrifying, because now, I mean, if she's like cursed, then that's not cool. None of that is cool. I'm not saying any of that's cool. I'm just saying like it's cool. I don't know. I'm just trying to shed light on it, because if she's freaking cursed, then that's not great. We need to figure that out. How do you remove a curse of the Headless Horseman? I'm going to have to go watch the movie. Maybe there's something in the movie that like, okay, it's just a movie. My God. I really need to look up my folklore a little bit more, because this one's freaking wild and I freaking love it. And I just don't know. So if you guys know, please let me know. I'm going to do a little more research, because clearly I need to. But anyhow, if you have a story like either Story Today or any paranormal story in general, head on over to my website and let me know. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And well, It's an odd world after all. Oddballs, thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to leave 5 stars or thumbs up on whatever podcast platform you listen on. If you have any comments for this episode, comment below or head over to Instagram and comment on this episode's preview. To submit a story or for more information, go to itsanoddworldafterall.com.